Hello, my name is Evie Pengelly, and today I will be talking about my presentation on ants and their culture for Humanities 440. This presentation overview, I will be talking about the complex social lives of the specialized ant colonies. Today I will be discussing three different ant species: tropical leafcutters, desert leafcutters, fire ants, culture, and conservation. My inspiration comes from the class material Can Animals Imagine by Robert Mitchell. During these class discussions, I was actually inspired by the idea that we live on an earth full of complex and intelligent life. I was always reminded of this idea from my childhood, this fascination of ant colonies and how, despite being one of the most looked down on and insignificant insect species, that actually couldn't be further from the truth. In this presentation, I will compare at least three different unique species just to prove how intelligent and full of life our Earth really is. I know a lot of people who are very interested in the idea of aliens and stuff, but again, like when I was inspired reading our class material, I was thinking about how why would I mean, yes, an alien life is very interesting, but we also have a lot of life here at our feet that I think is maybe even more interesting. So to start to discuss the discussion, here are the three species that I chose and specifically why. I chose the tropical leafcutters because they are very adapted to their specific harsh environments where they're from. I chose the desert leafcutters because they are also extremely adapted, but they are a cousin of another species that lives in an entirely different climate. So I think that's very interesting. And I chose a final species, the fire ants, because they're universally found throughout both of these climates, but they're just a completely different type of adaptation. So it's very interesting to learn how they all live on these in these regions together. So next, I'll be talking about the tropical leafcutter ants. Imagine a civilization that mastered farming tens of millions of years before humans even existed. According to the American Society for Microbiology, in their article titled The Leafcutter Ants 50 Million Years of Farming, these tropical leafcutter ants have been farming a type of fungus for over 50 million years, long before humans even appeared in the Earth's timeline. In the image to the right, you can see the leafcutter ant encased in ancient amber here. These ants, native to Latin America and the Caribbean, may be herbivores, but they do not eat plants in the way that you expect. They're not herbivorous in the way that you would expect. Um, these ants don't eat the leaves that they collect and are so well known for getting their name leaf cutters. They actually collect them and to deposit them in these fungus farms that they cultivate themselves. As the ASM article puts, quote, the ants don't eat the leaves themselves, they feed it to their cultivated fungus nests. I think that's very fascinating. A complex ancient agricultural society. These ants have built surprisingly complex societies centered around farming. When the queen starts a new colony, she brings with her a tiny piece of fungus from her old nest, called a fungal seed, and she uses this to begin her new garden underground. So the colony then feeds this fungus with their leaf cuttings that they are collect and bring back to the nest. And even they feed it with the waste from their nest. So it's like very recycled and circle of life type of farming. So this ancient system is very specialized and completely self-sufficient, which is very amazing for these such tiny um, creatures that are often overlooked as unintelligent. So in the center image here, you can see it points at a dusting on their chest. And this is actually their natural antibiotics and goes along with their complex symbiosis. So their antibiotics and weed control comes from this dusting. So to protect their crops, the ants rely on a natural antibiotic that grows on their own bodies, as seen here in the central image. These secretions kill off competing or harmful fungi, what we might call weeds, and their cultivated fungus stays healthy. It's a natural form of pest control that scientists have studied for its medical potential. And the amazing part is that the cultivated fungus, specific weed fungus, and the ants' own antibiotics are all only found inside these colonies, nowhere else in the world. So a 50 million year old partnership formed between these organisms. So after millions of years of coevolution, these species, ant, fungus, and antibiotic bacteria, and the weed fungus can only survive together. None of them exist independently in their natural world. They are locked in a symbiotic relationship that has persisted for tens of millions of years. Next, I will be talking about their desert cousins. So, with fewer resources in the arid parts of North America and Central America, as seen on this map here, um, compared to their tropical cousins, the desert leafcutter ant evolved to have an extremely complex social structure to survive in times of food and resource droughts. Unlike tropical leafcutters that have access to lush vegetation year-round, these desert dwellers must manage a scarce plant life. Their entire survival hinges on coordination, efficiency, and communal resilience. So their division of labor is much more extreme than their tropical cousins. Unlike other leafcutter ants, these ants have a caste-based system, but studies suggest that their roles are much more rigid and efficient due to these harsh environments that they are found in. According to antwiki.com, these ants divide tasks such as foraging, nest maintenance, and fungal care, as well as defense with extreme precision, ensuring no energy is wasted in the desert heat. Smaller workers tend to the fungus gardens deep inside the nest, as seen in this top right photo, right here, while larger workers or soldiers, seen in the bottom, often take on foraging and protection roles. This hierarchy minimizes the risk and maximizes resources used when every bit of energy counts. Foraging strategy and thermoregulation is also an extremely important part of this ant's survival. Desert leafcutter ants also exhibit behavioral adaptations tied to temperature and moisture control. Foragers are only active during the cooler hours, usually early morning or like late evening, to avoid the punishing midday sun. These ants rely on environmental cues like soil surface temperature to determine the safe foraging windows, often operating in a thermal sweet spot between 59 degrees Fahrenheit and 89 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, again, just phenomenal for such little creatures to understand what time is best for everyone to forage and bring back food. When they find a suitable plant, the process is cooperative. Multiple ants cut and transport these leaf pieces, and they take them back to the nest where they're processed and then fed their fungal crops, just like their tropical relatives. So their fungal farming underground is also more complex. So despite the dry climate, they still cultivate the same type of fungus as seen by their tropical cousins, which is also, again, in the top right image. They keep it alive through careful water retention and underground nest construction. So the desert ant nests are often built several feet deep where moisture is more stable. The fungus remains the central food source for these ants, and its care is prioritized even over individual survival. So, with their resilience through community, they're able to survive these harsh climates. Um, what's remarkable is that the strength of these ants doesn't come from any single ant, but from their collective intelligence. Their entire society is structured to respond to scarcity, heat, and drought. Tasks are optimized, foraging is timed, resources are shared, as well as their culture. In a world of extremes, these desert ants remind us that resilience isn't about dominance, It's about cooperation, adaptability, and precision. Fire ant culture, a different evolution, a different society. So, while leafcutter ants are famous for their ancient farming societies and strict systems, these fire ants have taken a completely different path. They are also native to our own North America backyards. These fire ants are actually omnivores, not fungus farmers. Instead of cultivating crops, they eat anything from seeds to insects and even small animals. This flexibility has allowed them to thrive in environments as varied as the dry deserts of the US Southwest to the tropical rainforests of South America. Because of this lifestyle, their social structure is more fluid than the rigid structures of leafcutter ants. According to fireantstennessee.edu, fire ant colonies have either one queen or multiple queens. Their workers are more generalized in their tasks, and this ability gives them a huge survival advantage. This is especially true when facing changing environments. When it comes to resilience, these ants are survival experts. During floods, fire ants even form living rafts, as seen in this image down here, by linking their bodies together and keeping their queen, brood, and workers safely afloat on the water surface. It's a powerful example of cooperation, even without the agricultural complexity of their leafcutter relatives. So while desert and tropical leafcutters are specialists or masters in their fungus farming, fire ants are generalists, thriving on flexibility, aggression, and adaptability. Different environments, different challenges, and entirely different social lives all come about through these widespread fire ant species. So, how can we keep them safe today? It is important to discuss conservation when talking about such pivotal species. Um, but what can we do to protect these ancient and essential species? First, you should educate yourself because many man-made threats are putting their survival at risk. Deforestation, such as when rainforests are cleared for agriculture, mining, or logging, cause entire ant colonies to be destroyed. Leafcutter ants rely on dense, moist forests to farm their fungus, and once their habitat is gone, they cannot simply relocate. Pollution, contaminants from industrial waste, oil spills, and urban runoff can poison ant colonies and directly damage their specialized fungal gardens. Insecticides and pesticides. These chemicals don't just target crop pests, they also kill essential insects like these ants. Even low levels of exposure can interfere with their complex social systems, chemical communication, and fungus cultivation. Second, donate. Donate to the conservation groups actively working to protect their rainforest species and other threatened species. Two trustworthy organizations are the National Wildlife Federation and the Rainforest Alliance. You can learn more and contribute at rainforestalliance.org. Finally, advocate. Share what you've learned. Leafcutter ants and other ant species are much more than just insects. They're ecosystem engineers that have sustained a 50 million-year-old partnership. Talk to others about their importance, their vulnerability, and simple awareness can spark action. Helping the ants means helping the entire forest system survive. Thank you for your time, and here's my works cited.